Well, hello and welcome to a new video. So in this video I want to talk about my light setup during newborn sessions. What light do I use? What are my settings? What equipment do I use? What do you have to pay attention to when photographing a newborn when it comes to light? The word photography literally means drawing with light. So this is actually part 2 in my series on newborn photography. So in this episode, I'm also going to show you behind the scenes clips of an actual newborn session. I'm going to show you the final images and camera settings, and I'm going to show you how I place my light while taking these photos. Like the direction of the light. I'm going to share my flash settings, the products that I use. So let's go and watch. So today I have a beautiful newborn boy I'm photographing, and yeah, I can't wait to show you a little bit behind the scenes and final images. I have this really cute new outfit for today's session. Let me show you. So here we have the Paloma Shell Easy Tail. Let me do a pullback. So yep, 50-inch softbox. We've got the rubber floor mat. Here, let's go the other direction. We've got the changing area. And then where the parents will be sitting. And now let me show you the outfit. So it's adorable. Super cute. Little sweater. Like we can open and close at the back. And then these little pants. So as you can see in my studio, it's not pitch black dark when I don't turn on my lights. I have windows and natural daylight comes in. However, the advantage I have in my studio is that the light is only coming from one side. So it's quite directional. The light is not coming from all sides, and I can kind of use this light to my advantage. I actually have 2 more windows in the back of the studio, but those are covered up. So right now there's only daylight coming in on the left side of my studio, where the changing table is and where the door is. There I have 2 windows, and the windows are actually placed quite high. So the light is coming more from the top instead of from the bottom, which is great for how I photograph. If somehow my flash would not work during a newborn session, I could use daylight. So that's great as a backup. But I also use my daylight in the studio as a fill light, just to soften the shadows a little bit. So the main light I'm using is a speed light inside a big square softbox. I have been using the same softbox for the last 11 years, and I still really like it. It gives a great catch light in the eyes when the eyes are open. So yeah, here you see the square softbox, the 50-inch Westcott Apollo softbox. You see the speed light that's like hanging in there. It's attached to a ring. If I loosen this, I can take it out. So it is the Godox V860, and then it's the second version for Nikon. That's what the N is standing for. So I can just like point it inwards. Then I can secure it. Okay, with one hand. Secure it so it's really, okay, little softbox is moving secure. I can change the angle a little bit, up or down or straight ahead, then secure it, and here I can adjust the height. And the softbox works as an umbrella, so I can take it out and then close it or have it in there. Inside is silver, and the flash is like pointing inwards and then reflected by the silver lining. So yeah, this is like with Velcro attached, so of course during the session I close it, and then you don't see the actual flash, and I can actually turn it on and off. I can, you know, turn it on and off through the fabric, which is easy. And here you see the battery pack, so that's great. I can charge it, and I put it back in, and then it's all good to go again. The flash receives a signal from a trigger that's on my camera, and it's the X2T. For Nikon. They have different ones for Sony, for Canon. I'm using a Nikon camera, so I have a Nikon trigger on my camera. I can also remove the trigger of my camera and directly place the speed light on the hot shoe of my camera. So the signal will go straight from my camera to the flash. This is how I use my flash sometimes at weddings, but for newborn sessions, I use the trigger gives a signal to the flash, and the flash fires inside the softbox, pointing inwards, so not directly through the diffused cover, but into the softbox, into the silver lining, and then it's reflected. What I really like about this flash is that it's cordless, it's wireless. So I don't have to plug it into power socket, and I can move it around easily. Sometimes I play with my light a little bit. I move it to the side a little bit more because I want the light to fall more on the face or less, or the baby is like tilting its head a little bit, so then I move my flash around. I don't have to touch the baby. So that's great. It's very portable, easy to move around. And that's also great because I also use it for sibling photos, family photos, and I can easily move it around. Now, about my flash setting. So my flash throughout the entire newborn session is set at 1/32. So it's not on full power, because that would be 1/1. Then you have 1/8, 1/16, 1/32. You can go lower, 1/64, 1/128. The bigger the number, the softer the light gets. I have it on 1/32, which works great for me in combination with the daylight that is actually right behind me, and it comes in as kind of like a fill light. Of course, it can differ. If it's a sunny day, I have more daylight coming in. If it's a cloudy day, I have less daylight, but that's okay. Like, I can see a little bit of a difference in my photos, but I can easily adjust that. I can move my flash a little bit closer if I want to have more flash in the photo, but the daylight is also quite strong, so I move my flash a little bit closer. If it's darker, I move my flash a little bit more back. I can always increase my ISO so I can catch a little bit more of the ambient light as well. I really like the consistency of the color temperature when using flash. Daylight can vary. Sometimes daylight can have a bluish tone in the mornings. Then when the sun comes out, it can have more of like a warm tone, more yellowish, more orangey. Daylight, the color changes throughout the day. The flash is very consistent. Of course, you don't have to use flash. You can use daylight only. That's how I started out. But then I quickly realized that here in the Netherlands, there are very dark and gloomy days. I was going to their homes to take photos. Sometimes the living room would be super dark, and they still wanted some post photos. So I would move my beanbag as close to the window as possible, but then I would still have to like crank up my ISO a lot, which is not bad. You can get a little bit more noise in the photos. You can use noise reduction, for example in Photoshop. But at that time, I realized as soon as I was getting a studio that I wanted to learn how to work with flash. So that's why I'm using a flash, and I really like it. Is it harmful to the baby's eyes? As for now, in 2025, studies say it's not. It's a soft flash. The whole room is pretty light, so it's not that they're completely used to the dark and then suddenly they get this big flash into their eyes. The flash is not very close to them. Sometimes I move it a little bit more closer, but as I'm coming closer with my camera, it doesn't mean that the flash is coming from my camera. It's coming from the softbox. I can see that when a baby has the eyes wide open, looking straight into my camera, they don't blink whenever I take a photo and the flash is firing. They don't respond to the flash. It's even with the sitter sessions, the cake smash sessions, they hardly notice the flash. It's not like they're closing their eyes whenever I take a photo. Sometimes I have a really sensitive 1-year-old, and then they will start looking suspicious towards the softbox, like closing their eyes a little bit and waiting for the flash to fire because they notice it. But most of the time they don't even notice it because it's not that strong in comparison to the daylight that's already there. So I would recommend a combination of daylight and studio light, or just daylight to start out with. And when you're doing lifestyle sessions in their homes, I would not use flash, I would place the family close to a window, maybe crank up my ISO and really photograph the surroundings, the living room, the bedroom, the way it is, without manipulating the light. Because when you're using flash, of course, you're really like aiming where the light comes from. Yeah, you can of course use a daylight lamp as well if the situation is really dark, and then you can decide the direction of the light, the strength of the light. So that could be a good option as well, to use either daylight, a combination of daylight and studio light, or a combination of daylight and continuous light, like a daylight lamp. In these videos, I'm mainly sharing what I use, not what you should use. I'm not explaining all the options available, giving pros and cons about every single situation. I'm explaining what I use. Now, as you can see, my light is placed at an angle. It's not coming from like straight ahead from where I'm sitting, where the camera is. It's not coming from the back. It's kind of like coming from this side front position. So a little bit to the side, a little bit to the front. And I'm gonna explain to you why I have my light there. And I'm gonna use a doll, and then I'm gonna show you the effect of the light. Okay, so I have here one baby doll. I actually use this one on a regular basis, explaining the parents how they can hold their newborns. Like, I would show them, but this is easier for me because this baby is about like 40 centimeters long, maybe even shorter. Real baby about 50. So if you have a smaller light, a smaller softbox, it can come in a little bit like harsher, or more like in a smaller area of your backdrop. The light is centered more, I guess. So if you big softbox, that's why I have 50-inch, very big, very diffused, very soft, very gentle, like a big window instead of like a small window where the light is, can be really cool effect, but hitting the area in a smaller. Okay, I'm gonna diffuse this light. The power of diffusing. So I'm just gonna get some cheesecloth. I'm gonna diffuse this flashlight. Better, a lot better. Okay, so the power of diffusing, but don't start a fire. Okay, so we have the light coming from different angles. Maybe, I don't know. Okay, so what's usually not very flattering light is light coming from the bottom up, because you're gonna get this like ghost face. Like, this is like very unflattering. Well, when it's coming from the top or from the side, it's not that bad. Same with the baby. So you don't want the light to come from the feet upwards, because then you kind of get this like scary looking face. Yeah, I think you can kind of see. So let me do a close-up. So from the bottom upwards, it's kind of like scary doll. From the side, from the top side, it's a little better. So yeah, I usually have my light here coming from this angle, so that it hits the face, but not like from straight ahead, because then you can create like kind of like flat light. Yeah, I don't think this with the flashlight is really working that well. So, but I like it when it hits the face from the top down, in this like diagonal angle pretty much. So you have definition as well in the face. You get like a 3D effect. So you have light coming more on one side of the face, and then a little bit on the other cheek as well, so that both eyes have a catch light. Catch light is where there is a light reflected in the eye. In my case, a little square light. You can see it in the photos. It brings the eyes alive. I mean, if they're sleeping, of course, eyes closed, no catch light. But if they have their eyes open and there wouldn't be a catch light in their eyes, like a little reflection of the light, the eyes would appear dead, and you want the eyes to look alive. So that's why I want the light to come into both eyes, and then like one side of the face is lighter, one side is darker, but it's not like a super harsh line. It's still soft and diffused, and then a little bit of light is hitting the other cheek as well. There's so many types of light, you can look them up. Beautiful Dutch painter Rembrandt light. They have a little like triangle on the other cheek. You can go for that, but my light is soft, diffused, but still purposely directional, if that makes sense. And look for yourself what you think is beautiful, like the direction of where the light is coming from. Because sometimes I have the light coming from this way, I have the baby lying like this, and I photograph from the shadows. So the side of my camera is taking a photo from this angle, the light is coming from the other side, and the light beautifully hits like the profile of the face. So it kind of like kisses the face, but from the other side. And I use that a lot when the baby is lying on the flocati. I think it's really pretty. So yeah, play with your light. But I would say don't let the light come from the bottom up, but more from the top down. And then you can play. Do you want it a little bit more from the side? Do you want it more from the top? Practice with the doll. Here I have some photos in my studio, and you can easily see it as well. Like the light in this photo was from this side, but you see beautiful catch lights. One side of the face is lighter than the other, but still there's a little bit of light touching the other cheek as well. But usually your attention is drawn to the part of the photo that is like the lightest. So I don't want the feet to be the lightest, I want the face to really stand out. But yeah, you can see the light was coming from that angle. Here there's a little bit more wall art in my studio. But here you can see what I was saying about like photographing from the shadows. So I'm taking a photo from this side, but the light is actually coming from the other side. So the side of the face where I'm photographing from is a little bit darker than the other side. I really like that because the light really like just kisses the face. But it's also deciding what you like, what your style is, what you want your photos to look like. Do you want to have like high contrast images, or do you want to have more like softer images? It's the same when you're photographing families outside. Do you like dark and moody images? Do you like light and airy images? Find your own style. Don't copy what someone else is doing, but determine for yourself. What do you like? What do you want your images to look like? So in this video, I won't go into detail about the parent's portrait, like the backlit in front of the softbox, but I guess that will be fun for another video. But here you'll see some images. Now I'm really curious to hear, what do you use? Maybe you can share it in the comments and we can learn from each other and be inspired by each other. Maybe you can give other photographers good ideas as to how they can use the light the best way possible, considering the location that they have, the circumstances, maybe the part of the world they live in. In the next videos, which are coming soon, I'm going to talk about my workflow, the poses that I do and in which order, and why I do certain poses and I don't do other poses. So stay tuned for the next videos. Thank you so much for watching. You can follow me on Instagram as well. I post more there. I have 2 accounts, I'll post them in the description. And then I love to read your comments and maybe see you on Instagram as well. Thank you for watching. Bye bye.